Your white counterparts at the PWIs are being provided an education that does not mirror yours. They have the luxury of receiving pedagogy from people of their culture, reading text from their culture, being able to perform text of their culture, for their culture, by their culture. And, you kind of spread in the fray a little bit.
Take it with a grain of salt, people.
You gotta take it with a grain of salt.
Take it with a grain of salt.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another episode of Take It With a Grain of Salt. I am Derrick Moor, your number one guide to developing a career in the entertainment industry. And welcome back to the next lecture. So I kind of want to just dive in. I got a lot of information I kind of want to cram into this little short segment, and we're just going to hop right into it. So last time we talked about three things that I felt were essential for young artists to know if they're thinking about having a career in the entertainment industry. And those three things were craft, character, and always be creating. I kind of want to take this time to actually unpack that craft part of it. We talked a little bit about it in the previous lecture. It being a way to, unlock a process that you can bank on every time. Also, it's a way for you to decide if this is something that you want to do or not. I want to kind of tap in on this idea of efficiency. Finding efficient ways to be good at the hard stuff quicker just opens you up for more services. The only way you can be efficient is through hours of perfecting your craft. And that's what we're going to unlock here today. So, at the risk of making this probably one of the most boring parts of the lecture, there's some books that I want to recommend to storytellers. These books are, specific for, certain sectors in the entertainment industry, but I feel that just about every sector can learn something from each other, right? So the first book is Respect for Acting by Uta Hagen. This was the first book that I've ever read that had anything to do with acting. I thought when I first came into acting, I was like, why am I reading books on this? This is a do type thing. We ain't no fuck I'm gonna read. And what you gonna tell me that, that I ain't working out up here? Before I was hopped into the theater, I was playing ball. I was playing football at ASU. I didn't know anything. And this book kind of laid out a lot of the terminology. It laid out a process for you. It is acting 101 for this is acting for dummies. The second book I'm gonna recommend is The Inner Game of Tennis. Primarily for artists. There's a high level of self-criticism. A lot of artists tend to beat the shit out of themselves. And this book kind of nudges you in the direction to be a little bit more kinder to yourself. Beating your ass ain't gonna help you figure it out. I mean, just put it blank to you. You're not going to will it by being cruel to yourself. You actually dig yourself into a tunnel of no self-confidence, negative self-talk. He talks about that. He breaks this book down into self one, being this body, this flesh that we operate, and self two, being the devil on the shoulder that is not, that ain't helping you develop in your craft. The third book is Backwards and Forwards by David Ball. Script analysis is just important. You can't read something one time and think you have it. A part of developing craft is part of developing process. In that process, you have something called script analysis. This is mining the script with things that you say about yourself, things that the characters say about you, and things that the writer puts in some of the action, things that you do, right? If you don't know to mark those things in the script, you don't develop a story director. If you're not armed with that information about what the characters are, you will never be able to tell a cohesive story amongst your cast or amongst your team or whatever you have. So understanding script analysis that's gospel. Everything starts in the script. A lot of times, for directors, a lot of times actors get these wonderful ideas that just aren't in the world of what is of the project. Taking everything back to the script is a way to save yourself and a way to keep the story, unified amongst everybody. You get everybody in the room to make sure that we all telling the same story. And then once we leave the room and divide ourselves up in whatever scenes we need to take, we are still telling the same story. So this book kind of stresses that script analysis. I want to stress this for actors as well. This thing right here is called a beat sheet. These are your tools. This is how you paint. This is the brush right here. You also mark these in your script as well. Stakes, objectives, tactics, obstacles, beats, beat shifts. This is home base for you. This is where everything starts. Which leads me to my next book. This book is primarily for filmmakers, writers specifically. Save the Cat. This was recommended to me by a great friend of mine that I went to grad school with. Writing is fun, but writing a script that is worth being sold is even more fun. And this kind of it gives structure to that idea. A lot of artists don't really understand that there's business aspect. I'm one of those people. I'm learning the hard way about a lot of business, the business side of this profession. But it's just another thing that's fun for me to learn. But if you want to make some money in this thing, you got to write something that's worth selling. And this book is a great way to measure that. This is another one for the actors as well. These right here are the methods these are the acting technique. I want to say this. Don't die on any of these hills. Please don't. These aren't hills to die on. And by that, I mean, don't get so wrapped up in this method of acting that it's there to help you get to the truth. That's essentially what it is. And a lot of people really don't need this stuff. If I were to pick what I studied the most, it was Stanislavski. But it wasn't this. To me, I resonated with it because it just forced you to be inside of the world that you are creating. A lot of this stuff kind of takes you out of it. Meisner, just never been a fan of that. Alexander is kind of weird to me. Suzuki or whatever it is. It's just high intensity aerobics. Oh boy, but comments about to go crazy on that one. But yeah, you don't need to die on the hill of any of these, man. These are ways to help you. If at best these things are guides. You run into a lot of these pedagogy policemen.
I studied Alexander. I studied with Meisner. I did Meisner.
Bro, nobody cares, bro. This piece of text is very dense. I will recommend this to every storyteller. It is the Aristotle Poetics. Now, we can talk about in a different video where this stuff came from, but, just for the sake of this lecture today, we'll just say that Aristotle came up with these ideas of what it means, what dramatic structure means. If you were to focus on anything, I would focus on his thoughts on spectacle, comedy, drama, dramatic structure. That is what craft is. Now, let's talk about where you should learn this. I don't know how much time this is going to take, so I'm going to try to be real concise. If you were to ask me this question maybe 5 or 6 years ago, if I was to try to answer this 100%, I would say every storyteller needs to take their ass in the theater. There is not a profession that offers more hands-on experience across professions than the theater. Hands down. What do you mean by that? You want to know how to do fashion, go to the theater, design clothes. You want to know how to do architecture, you want to know how to build, go to the theater, help build the sets. You want to learn marketing, you want to learn publicity, go to the theater and help publish shows. Videographers, this is a new avenue that just opened up for you guys in the past 4 or 5 years. A lot of these theaters need 30 to 15-second clips of their shows. There's a way to grab a little cash as well. Of course, I don't have to mention directors, writers, and filmmakers and actors. If you need help with public speaking, this thing right here, podcasting, what you want to do, get in front of a camera, learn how to talk. The theater. And if you're in college, you're paying for it. So, yeah, and I felt that way 100% before. After graduating my MFA, it's down to like an 85 to a 90. I still believe all that stuff is true. But if you look like me, a lot of these BAs, if you're at HBCU BA, a lot of times you don't have the funding or the resource to get the best talent, or you're not being taught some of this stuff. If you go to a PWI as a black person, you already know what that is. I want to say this to black folks, to black storytellers. If you're in a BA, or if you're going into an MFA, or if you are in an, that's crazy. If you are in a MFA, you are being horribly underserved. All is not lost, but just know that feeling that you have about being 2 out of the 12 people in your cohort that are black, and the stuff that you're doing, you're just being undisturbed. And I'm gonna put it this way. My mentor, Professor Stockard, has this idea that I share. Medicine, law, all of that stuff, it doesn't matter who teaches it. The facts are the facts when it comes to heart surgery. 1 + 1 is 2. Science is science. A right angle is a right angle when it comes to architecture. There's, the professions outside of art are pretty standard as far as the information and who gives it. Art is the only profession that is community based a bit, right? Where your services, the services that you are providing or that you are learning to provide are contingent on the culture that you come from. A lot of it is. There are cases where those cultures mend, but at its origin, right? It's a cultural thing. It's a cultural thing. And when you have some of these teachers that don't know what it means to teach a black person, giving them I'll say this because I feel like I'm being a little convoluted. Think about going into this new, right? Going into acting new, you don't know terminology, you don't know where to stand, you don't know how to look. There's a lot of new things that comes with just being a first-time storyteller. Partner that newness with the fact that you're giving sources, you're giving text that doesn't support. Now you don't even have a way in. So you're learning new pedagogy on top of learning a new culture. And that's what it means for black people to go to MFAs and BAs and stuff like that. They don't know how to teach you. I'm not gonna say they don't care to know, but they were born unqualified to teach you. Unfortunately, there is no HBCU MFA program yet. Like I said, all is not lost. I did create an MFA green book. Let me know in the comments if you kind of want me to expand on that. And also, college as a whole. There is pros and cons to going to college. Let me know in the comments if you want me to kind of expand on the pros and cons of college. But going back, I digress. That's what it means for you to be in an HBCU. Be in a arts program if you're black. Lucky for you, I'm here. I got you. I got you with text. Here are some of the playwrights. If you are a theater actor, here are some of the playwrights that I think you should look into, along with some of their plays. This is an olive branch, right? Without me going into depth how to survive the MFA, BFA thing, if you're black, the biggest thing is what you're learning and how to apply it. That is probably the biggest hit that you take, one of the biggest hits that you take in your PWI arts program. So look at these playwrights, look at some of their best work, and when you're being assigned monologues, scenes, this is your home base. This is how you apply things like beats, stakes, objectives, tactics. Strongly encourage these artists. I'm gonna say this about this. I'm gonna move on. Your white counterparts at the PWIs are being provided an education that does not mirror yours. They have the luxury of receiving pedagogy from people of their culture, reading text from their culture, being able to perform text of their culture, for their culture, by their culture. And, you know, you kind of spread in the fray a little bit. Why is that important? When you are actually like gigging and when you start auditioning for things, you're going to audition for things that are of your culture. You'll make the most money doing the work from your culture, generally speaking. There are exceptions to that. There are times where stories are written where a lot of cultures come together in one room, and those are beautiful pieces. But, you know, you have to have a grasp on you. I mean, I'm seeing it now, dude, in the theater. A lot of these actors that went the Linklater, did the Edith Skinner, and
I speak with distinction.
all of those black actors that do that, they now having to retrace back and try to figure out them, because the industry is shifting more towards, okay, yeah, I think we fucked up. We want to do more of y'all stories, or more storytellers of color. The door is opening. Having a knowledge of self is very important. Just having a knowledge of self, which, you know, leads me to the next thing I kind of want to talk about, right? So we talked about where to learn this stuff. The theater, I would say, is number one. You get the reps when you are acting in a theater. You also are exploring the extremities of every bit of human emotion. And if you're being taught right, you also start to develop skills and techniques when it ain't there. After the second week of a theater run, after the 20th take of a shot, you know, there might not be as much verve for that line that you had all of the emotion for the first time. For directors, the theater is important because you're handling text that predates a lot of your grandparents. You know what I mean? You're handling text that has been cemented in the world of literature, which is sort of a cheat sheet for you. I will say the same thing for writers. Writers, you're reading, like I said, you're reading text that predates you and your grandparents. So I'm going to say the theater. One of the things that I did not talk about when it came, like, I want to go back to the reading list a little bit. And this is probably the most important thing that I feel that every storyteller should have. There needs to be an understanding of history. That's also a part of the craft. Once you get all of the pedagogy and all of the inner workings stuff out of the way, you're going to want to be a part of things that really powerful stories, I would say. Which is that's my assumption, is that after, you know, doing years of craft, you want to do meaningful work. And an understanding of history, understanding history of the art form is okay, is good, I would say. But what I'm talking about primarily is history of your culture, history of your family, and yes, history of the time. Those are where the stories are. It's how we see where we've grown. It's how we see where we have become stagnant as a human race. And it's also a way for us to see what we can be. And all of those answers lie in history. They lie in like I said, they lie in the history of this country or wherever you're from. They lie in the history of your culture, and they lie in the history of your family. There's a story there that encompasses all of those things. For Black people, when we talk about history, I believe that this generation of young Black storytellers have the greatest opportunity to be the first to tell some of these stories. But they have to be done right. So in light of, you know, storytelling, here are, you know, some of my favorite stories. Great casting, outstanding acting, and just sublime attention to detail. Goated story. This is like a really good family story, and it tugs on the heartstrings a bit. Under the radar film, and just a beautiful piece of American history. I'm a sucker for love stories, and this period piece hits all of the beats for a classic. Obviously, the story is brilliant, but this is a cinematography master class. Yo, great writing and great acting met on this. Best film of 2016, not up for debate. Not funny for the sake of being funny. There's heart in the middle of this, and I think that's what makes great comedy. There is not a single thing out of place with this piece. There are a lot of stories in the 90s that didn't get their just due. This was one of many. Goated color grading, goated costuming. I hate what's happening with this franchise, but this storytelling is almost Shakespearean. Harrelson and McConaughey kills this. There's also a 4-minute single shot scene that's amazing. R.I.P. Helen McRoy, this is a must watch. I'm in love with this plot. The cinematography is out of this world. There's a lot in the show that I'm still in. This show almost had me convinced that the 60s weren't that bad. This is the type of creativity that I aspire to have in my company. Goated story. I love how everybody was calling Molly trash, but forgetting that Issa cheated on Lauren's first season. Goated story. I will never understand why this got canceled. This one is obvious. Okay, the genius of this show is obvious, but there were some images that really left me spiritually uncomfortable. It deserved every award that it got. Glover's artistry is out of this world. This piece confirms that. I am not ashamed to admit that I cried in the theater watching this. Every single episode is amazing. I watch this like 4 times every 3 months. I'm in love with this art style. I could start a mega church with the amount of sermons that I could pull from this show. Listen, I'm not arguing with you niggas about this. This one is better. You know, I'm not an anime person, but this story was really captivating. Archer doesn't miss. This might be a hot take, but this is probably one of the best animated series out right now. Aaron, come back, bro. We need you out here. Guys, like this is where the work happens, man. There's a lot of people that talk shit, bro. There's a lot of people that talk shit. Oh man, I want to do this, man. And I know personally, I've invested time that didn't go anywhere into people that just talk shit. I would say for right now in my life, this is the closest I'll be to a collegiate professor. I've been approached a few times to be a collegiate professor and I turned it down. And being in a room with mediocrity is a part of the reason why. There are people that don't know that they don't know, which grace is given there, but there's people that don't know and don't care. And a lot of times, those motherfuckers outnumber the people that do care. The people that do care makes it worth it. But I don't want to be bound by collegiate policy when I want to say, yo, you probably don't need to fucking be here or you fucking your life up, bruh. Like, these young adults don't know shit, and education just passes them along, and they're developing no type of skill set just on the craft or in life. You know, a lot of this craft, it's gonna teach you it's gonna develop grit. You're gonna develop grit because you're gonna suck at something. How else are you gonna learn if you don't fuck up? If you batting 1,000 your entire career and don't fuck anything up, where's the growth? Where's the learning? You have to fuck up. It's too hard. Like, man, if you don't get your weak ass up and keep fighting, which, you know, something else just came to mind while I'm thinking about just fighting. Please don't take any of this personal, because I am definitely talking to the younger artists myself, the younger me, when I tell you that the tip of the iceberg is where the millions happen. Making a living at this, what a lot of people won't tell you is, you know, a couple $100 here starting off, nothing starting off. Let me, I'm just being generous. Nothing starting off. Couple $100 here, intermediate to beginner, professional, $1,200 here, $5,000 here, $10,000 here. You ain't banking. You have to really, a part of the craft is being around to actually partake in learning it, which means you got to keep an eye out on your money, bro. This ain't talked about a lot for artists. And the reason why I'm pushing craft and pushing artists to know more than just what their sector is, because you need to develop, you have to have income. The beauty of college in the MFAs is that they will pay you to act. I got a theater scholarship in like towards the last couple of years of my BA. So my tuition was covered that way. But when I got to grad school, they gave me money. They paid for my tuition, and then they gave me $1,500 a month to live off of. And on top of that, I got some loans. So for an artist, I had like $6,000 a semester. That was $12,000 for 2 years. For an artist, come on now, that's good money. At 23, 24 years old, shit me. I wish I can go back to that. When you set out to be an artist, that's the $1 million film. For a lot of us, isn't where you start. You start collegiately, or you start low budget or short film, student film. That's where it starts. And then everything in the middle is trying to survive. And people don't really know that middle part. They find out that middle part, but a lot of people don't know that, after a theater show, if you don't book, you can file for unemployment. After you do a show in the theater, you can file for unemployment in that state and collect unemployment, and then just use the auditions as your search for work, because that's what it is. A lot of people don't know that. That is making a living doing this. Now, you on there for a year and a half ain't gonna cut it, but it's hard. This is my belief, and you can take this with a grain of salt. Passion unlocks every phase of your life. Passion unlocks a better relationship with you and your partner. It unlocks a better relationship with you and yourself. It unlocks financial success. It unlocks career success. It unlocks spiritual success above anything. It is no secret the demonic nature of this industry. With that, being a young artist, I want to foster a place with this podcast, with my production company, to let people know that you can make stories, you can make offerings to God with these stories, with our stories. I'm a firm believer that was his tracking system. Once you find the thing that you love to do the most, he got your attention. You're excited about this thing that you do, and it comes to you pretty easily, and you're good at it. Once you find something that you love, it's not negotiable to not follow it. You got to follow it, bro. God is talking to you. He's pulling you with excitement. As God trying to get your attention, like, hey, this is where I need you. And there's so many people that are just ignoring it. That's the lecture, ladies and gentlemen. You got your homework assignments, you got your reading assignments. If you found any of this helpful, make sure you hit that like and subscribe and that notification bell just to let you know what's coming down the pipe later. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch y'all later.